everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I never talk about that I read this year. Lighting for today's video, we're just gonna have to deal with it. I really wanted to get this one filmed today, but it's like 3:30 and it's already dark basically. Like I have been literally getting up at 5 so that I can be ready to catch daylight to film, and I have been non-stop today, but still I need to squeeze one last one in and the lighting is gonna suck. But this video also has become very different than what I was expecting. Also, happy Bookmas Day 20, definitely forgot to say that. We are in the midst of Bookmas, so if you don't know Bookmas, like I post a new video every single day, so don't forget to click that subscribe button and then click the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post a new video, because there are a lot of them coming. But essentially this video was starting out as like an almost favorites. That's how I did it in years past. I think I did it just one year, where essentially books that like I really liked a lot but they didn't quite make my favorites list, because my favorites list is 15 books. But today I'm kind of just talking about books that I read this year that I feel like I haven't talked about enough. Some of them, like every single one of them, I have mentioned in one video because I talked about every single book that I read this year in my tier ranking every book that I read this year video, but I talked about them very briefly because like I was going through 100 books. There wasn't that much time. So these are essentially the books that I don't think have gotten their shining moment. I haven't been able to give them enough love. So today I'm here to give them the love that they deserve, or really just talk about my thoughts in general. If you did want in-depth thoughts on any of the books that I've read this year, I will link a playlist of all of my recent reads videos that I've done this year down below. They are all spoiler-free reviews, but I'll go like more into depth in my thoughts for all of these books, and you can also just like go to the chapter of the book that you want to talk about if there was a particular one that you were interested in. But that being said, I literally have so many books stacked next to me. We need to just get into this one. I also am very ill-prepared for planning this one, but we're just flying by the seat of my pants here. So first book that I wanted to talk about is The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. I really enjoyed this book. It is an enemies to lovers romance, and it's one that I had had for quite a while and finally ended up getting to this year, but I had a great time with it. And I actually have another book by this author. It's The Wedding Crasher that I'm quite excited to read. This is definitely about like a very type A personality character who ends up in kind of an unexpected relationship, and it ends up being really cute. The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris is one that I feel like I have not talked about a lot recently because I read it like a year ago now. I read it last December for one of my Bookmas vlogs, and I quite enjoyed this one. Brittany Morris is the author of Slay, and I really enjoyed Slay as well, but this was such a sad story, but also really enjoyable. This book is about the main character Alex, and Alex has this ability where he touches something and he sees like the future of that object. So this obviously can be kind of complicated and lead to a lot of hijinks, but it also can be really difficult when he touches his brother and actually sees his brother's incoming death. So he has to deal with that knowledge. Like, does he tell his brother? What does he do about it? Super emotional story, but a beautiful story about brotherhood all the same. Charlie is being a bit needy, so he is going to help me out with the rest of these. So next is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. This is definitely out of my comfort zone, out of the normal realm of what I usually would read, but it is a like thriller horror story, basically supernatural, paranormal, like sisterhood story. It's super weird, but it definitely had twists that I did not see coming and kept me on the edge of my seat. Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan was a really good book that had very interesting writing that kind of took me a little bit to get into, but I loved the relationship once I did get into it. There kind of was like a conflict that I didn't feel like was necessary and I didn't fully understand, but overall I did really like the story. This is about a recent divorcee. She is much happier without her previous husband, and she has 2 kids that like she's raising on her own. They're having a great time, but she actually is also a scriptwriter, and she was writing the script of exactly what happened with her and her husband. It ended up being picked up for a major movie, and this like very famous actor, he ends up coming to stay at her house to star as her ex-husband, but then they kind of start a relationship. So it's very interesting. The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn is my second book that I've read by Claire Kahn. The first book that I read was, I Believe in a Thing Called Love, I think is what it was called. I can't quite remember, but she writes about asexual main characters, and this book also featured ace rep, but it also has like kind of a love square, like this really twisted, tangled web of relationships that I didn't exactly know where it was going to go, which is very uncommon for an adult romance. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh, I'm sure you have heard of. This is like the ultimate sad girl TikTok read, and I like so out of my comfort zone. This is definitely unlike other books that I would normally read. It's very much something that I can see like the other English majors at my university going wild over, and I would just kind of be in the corner there reading YA and being like, cool. But I did decide to read it, and I actually did like surprisingly quite enjoy it. I am kind of flip-flopping on how I feel about it because it's so weird, but like I don't think I'm flip-flopping in a bad way, if that makes sense. Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Booley is a book that I don't think I have gotten to talk about enough. It is a really great mystery, and it features Indigenous representation done very, very well. You get like right into this community alongside this character that is super conflicted. Their community is facing a lot of hardships, and she is enlisted by the FBI to try and help because like there's this drug, and she is enlisted to kind of not really spy, but kind of spy. It's definitely a story that I wasn't expecting, and that like, once again, that's definitely not in a bad way. At Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. I can just see the lighting getting worse, and it is very frustrating to me. Maybe it's just me though, whatever. Anyways, this is the final book of the Brown Sisters trilogy, and I'm so sad that this trilogy is over, but like, I had such a blast with them. So Eve Brown is the youngest sister, and I also am the youngest of 3 girls, so I knew I was probably gonna love this one. And I definitely could see a lot of myself in Eve. She's a character who doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. She has 2 sisters who are very successful, know what they want to do, all of that, and she just kind of feels like a mess. And I just felt like, yes, that is so relatable. And yeah, I had a really great time with this one. Super cute romance, the witty banter, all of it. I just, you know, Talia Hibbert never misses for me. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This is a book, once again, I'm sure you have heard of. It is a very hyped up book, and I can't say that I enjoyed it quite as much as everyone else did, but it was still a really solid romance read. It's fake dating, and it is like a really cute fake dating relationship. I felt the chemistry between the 2 of them. I just felt like kind of the basis for the fake dating was a little bit weak, but I also enjoyed that it was about women in STEM. I thought that was a really cool element. Angel of Greenwood by Randy Pink is a book that I had been wanting to read for a super long time, finally did, and I loved it. I thought this was such a great story because of how it dealt with the subject matter. So it is dealing with the massacre in Greenwood, Oklahoma in 1921. Absolute like just massacre on what was known as Black Wall Street. It was literally just this white mob attacked Black people in their community, and this story shows you like their life in their community. You get to know the characters before this happens, and it made it all the more heartbreaking and brought it to life, but was a very educational read, but also one that completely like destroyed me. Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is a book that is translated from the Japanese. It was super hyped up, and it is featuring like, I think it's 4 different stories that are set at this cafe. It is 4, that's what I was showing you there. But all 4 of these stories are set at this cafe. They're following like different characters who, they're like the cafe, you can travel through time, and they're all going for different reasons. You're learning more about them, the relationships, and why they're traveling back. It's very interesting, super different, but really good. Isn't It Bromantic by Lisa K. Adams. This is the 3rd question mark? 4th. Yeah, I think it's the 4th book in the Bromance Book Club series, and now the Christmas one is the 5th. I can't remember. The point is, this one is focusing on the Russian, who is like a beloved character who is literally just known for having gastric issues. And now you get to know him more beyond that. So it was kind of nice to get that like representation for people with IBS and those gastric issues. It definitely was kind of at times used for comic relief in previous books, but I like the fact that it wasn't as much here. Like, it definitely is still at times, but not not where like it's the butt of a joke, for lack of a better way to say that. I guess a punchline would be a better way to say that. But this also features kind of like a fake dating relationship and like best friends to lovers. Essentially, he married his best friend in Russia, and then she could have a chance at a better life and come with him to America because he is a pro NHL player. And it's kind of like a will they won't they, where like there has been a lot of tension in their relationship recently, but they actually love each other. It's just a really good, I'm a sucker for friends to lovers romance. How to Fake It in Hollywood by Ava Wilder is once again fake dating. We have an up and coming actress. She's really trying to make it. And on the other hand, we have a very famous actor, and he is trying to like clean up his public image. So they end up having like this PR stunt where they are together, and it's really cute, but also has a lot of emotion to it. The Layover by Lacey Walden is one that I wasn't expecting to enjoy as much as I did, but had a lot of fun with it. It is an enemies to lovers story. It features a main character who is a flight attendant, and there's this other flight attendant that she hates, but he ends up going with her on this trip. It's like her last trip because she's going to be settling down finally, as her fiance wants her to, and she's not going to be a flight attendant anymore. So she's taking this last trip because it has a layover in Bali. So it's set in Bali. It's just really fun. The Summer Job by Lizzie Dent. I had so much fun with this one, although it could definitely be frustrating at times. The main character, she ends up pretending to be a sommelier at like this Scottish estate because she didn't know what she was gonna do for the summer. Her best friend, she was supposed to like say that her best friend, who actually is a sommelier, couldn't go anymore, but then she ends up standing in her place instead. It's definitely a story about like mistakes and learning from those mistakes, trying to fix things, trying to learn, and it was a lot of transformation for the main character, which I enjoyed. Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, I quite liked. This is about a weather girl, and it's a romance story between her and the sports newscaster, and it's really cute. One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle was quite close to my favorites of the year list, to be honest, but there was something with the magic system that like didn't entirely, or not the magic system, but the magical element to it that didn't entirely hit the mark for me. However, I loved the sister relationship, the Italian setting. It definitely just brought you to the Italian Riviera. It was really perfect for a summertime read, and definitely a perfect like mother-daughter relationship story. Ties That Tether by Jane Icaro is a book that I've had for a long time, finally read, and really loved it. I didn't realize this was going to be as deep of a story as it ended up being, but it's made me even more excited to read the rest of the books that I have by this author. But this features a Nigerian-Canadian main character who is really torn between those two identities, torn between her expectations for herself, her parents' expectations, and her culture's expectations, like as a whole. She's definitely having a hard time with all of those things, and it's kind of all coming to a head in this book. My Imaginary Mary by the Lady Janie's Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, Jody Meadows. This is the second book of the Mary series by these authors. They did the Jane series, now this is the Mary series. So the first one was Mary Queen of Scots, and now this one is Mary Shelley, but we also have Ada Lovelace, and of course like a Frankenstein story. It was so good. I loved it. I wasn't expecting to enjoy this one as much as I did, although I have loved their books, but like I think after My Calamity Jane, which I wasn't the hugest fan of, I've been kind of skeptical, but I did really love this one. The Frankenstein element, it all works. Like it's a satirical sort of historical fiction. It's fairies that are thrown in here. Shouldn't work, but it really does. And yeah, this one did really work for me. One True Loves by Elise Bryant was a fantastic story about that transitional period in between high school and college. And it's dealing with a character who has a lot of expectations set on her by her parents. And she's on this cruise with her family, like before she's gonna go off to college. They're going on this family cruise, and during it, she has to like decide what she wants to major because her parents found out she's kind of undecided, and they're like, no, 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 that's unacceptable. So she's faced with these really big decisions, trying to put herself into a box that fits everyone else's expectations, but also keep herself happy. And at such a young age, like I think this is just a great book for any high school student who is at at that time in their life, which is a really hard time when you're expected to make all these decisions, but like you're still figuring out who you are. It's tough. Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley is a book that, once again, wasn't expecting to like this one as much as I did, but it was a really great fantasy read. It was the first fantasy I had read in quite a while, and it's actually a sapphic fantasy, and it has this world where like you have witches. The main character is one of the main characters. She's a witch who has like, she's unable to feel love, and then the other character, she is just trying to save her father because there's this plague that is going around that makes everyone like forget their memories and everything, which is terrifying. But the two of them end up teaming up to try and stop this plague, figure out where it all started, all of that, and it was really good. Songs in Ursa Major by Emma Brody is kind of like Daisy Jones and the Six, but in prose, obviously. So it's a love story set against the backdrop of like the 70s music scene. You are following a singer-songwriter who is just trying to make it, and her life and romance and all of that. The Summer of Bitter and Sweet by Jen Ferguson is another book that features a representation for Indigenous peoples, and this is set during the summer following a character who is in a really difficult situation. Like, I think reading the synopsis, I didn't realize how hard the situation was, but her father ends up showing up, and that is a very hard and triggering thing for her. So definitely be aware of triggers before going into this story, but it was really, really powerful. Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson was not my favorite by Margaret Rogerson, but I did really enjoy it. It's like a dark fantasy dealing with death and like not zombies, but kind of. It was just very different. In Kingdom of the Curse by Carrie Maniscalco, a super different like turn from Kingdom of the Wicked. I liked it a lot, but it definitely gets a lot more steamy, and now it's actually a new adult series. The last few books I have kind of talked about a little bit more in some capacity, so I just wanted to kind of rapid fire mention them briefly because they are books that I quite enjoyed and don't think I have like talked about all that much. So Orphan Monster Spy by Matt Colleen, you guys know I had wanted to read this book for so long, and it didn't disappoint. Definitely, once again, one to be aware of triggers, but it is about a Jewish girl who goes undercover in a Nazi boarding school, and it is honestly just as intense as it sounds. These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. Chloe Gong has such interesting concepts for stories, and I'm so glad I finally have read this book. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in 1920s Shanghai about rival gangs. It is really good. Heirs Apparently by Diana Ma. Really liked this one. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I did still really enjoy it. It is about a character who she's trying to make it as an actress. She ends up getting cast actually as the lead role in this movie, but it's filming in Beijing, and she's not supposed to go there. Her parents have like forbid her from going there, but now she's actually going there, and she ends up finding out a lot of things about herself. Alice by Heart by Stephen Sater. I really enjoyed this one. It is like an Alice in Wonderland retelling, but also mixed with historical fiction, and World War II historical fiction at that. It is also really heartbreaking, by the way. It's very sad. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This, for me, was personally overhyped, but I think if you were to go into it with like lower expectations, you probably would really enjoy it. It's more of a friendship story following a very long period of time where you're following these two characters who are best friends and video game designers. The Looking Glass Wars by Frank Bador. Finally read this one as well, and it is another Alice in Wonderland retelling, and another one I liked a lot. The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller was so good. The perfect like hot and steamy fantasy romance. Also, it's like a forbidden touch sort of thing, so like I don't know what the actual trope is called, but ooh, it was good. The War Outside by Monica Hesse is set in internment camps, and it follows a Japanese main character and a German main character. Hard to read, but really well done. The Enigma Game by Elizabeth Wein isn't my favorite by this author, but I did still really enjoy it. She just like, the bar was set so high. But the Enigma Game is about this machine that a German soldier ends up delivering to this British like camp, and it is about the characters there, what they do with this machine, because it can actually be used like against the British. Very high stakes situation, and it's following pilots, which her historical fictions often do. And the last book that I don't think I've talked about enough and I wanted to mention is Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur. This is fake dating, but it's opposites attract as well, grumpy sunshine, and it's a great mix of all of those, and it's a sapphic romance. I loved the two of them, definitely felt their chemistry. It was really, really cute overall. Okay, so those are all the books that I had wanted to talk about that I don't think I have talked about all that much during this Bookmas. I know that was like a really rush talking about all of them, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys had heard about them and yeah, that they all kind of got their moments to shine. But like I said, if you wanted to hear more thoughts on them, I will have those recent reads linked down below where you can get like a full scope of my thoughts. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Tomorrow for Bookmas Day 21, we're going to be kind of kicking off like the Christmas video. So I know that I did like a Christmas vlog yesterday and then I'm kind of pivoting back to not Christmas, but we're going back there until Boxing Day. But tomorrow, I'm really excited for this video. For Bookmas Day 21, I'm going to be sharing the books that you guys said you would get me for Christmas if you were to like get me a book, and then I asked you guys why. I think it's gonna be really interesting, so we shall see. But thank you once again so much for watching, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye!